We've officially entered the era of the hyperhatch. The new Mercedes-AMG A45 S has a 310 kilowatt engine. It has a drift mode and it has an interior layout that would put some $500,000 supercars to shame. It wins the pub test, and on paper it also dethrones the Audi RS3 Sportback as the hot hatch horsepower king. But what we want to know is which of these cars is better on circuit? Which one takes hot hatch supremacy? First blood goes to the A45, edging out the RS3 in a drag race along the front straight of the Pheasantwood facility. But there is much more at play here than straight line speed. The A45 and RS3 both sit at the pointy end of their model lineups, with potent turbocharged engines, all-wheel drive systems, and first-rate safety and tech. The Audi is due to be facelifted in the next 18 months, which means the current model has its work cut out against the shiny new AMG. The biggest talking point for the new A45 S is its engine, the world's most powerful series production 4-cylinder, with 16 kilowatts and 20 Newton meters more than the RS3. It's mated standard to an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, and this car is underpinned by huge 360mm front and 330mm rear discs. Since we're out of circuit, we also get to talk about the A45's other feature, drift mode. Putting the novelty factor to one side, I've got to be honest, this drift mode really does add another dimension to the A45 on circuit. It's fun, it's grin-inducing, and it's playful all at once, and it really does add to the hot hatch experience. Otherwise, in time attack mode, the A45 S feels tied down on circuit with a fast steering rack and really excellent body control. It feels quite graceful with the way that it changes direction. This particular test car is let down slightly by its tyres. It's got Michelin Pilot Sport 4S rubber. I feel like it could really take the next step if you were to go with Cup 2s. But even so, this car's really potent on circuit. It's well braked. If anything, it's probably asking for a bit more space to really stretch its legs. The depth of talent on display here is phenomenal for a hot hatch. The A45 becomes twitchy and alive on circuit with a dynamic envelope that will entertain even the most experienced of pilots. That brings us to the RS3, which returns to showrooms after an 18-month hiatus. With 294 kilowatts and 480 Newton meters, the RS3 is no slouch, even in this company. It features a 0 to 100 time of 4.1 seconds, electromagnetic sport suspension, and monster 370mm front and 310mm rear discs. Many people call the RS3 Sportback understated, but I've got to be honest, in this company, its interior almost feels outdated against the A45. With all that said though, it is still a really nice place to be, and the RS3 features one of the best soundtracks in the business, thanks to the uneven firing order of its 5-cylinder turbo petrol engine. Not surprisingly, the 5-pot is the highlight of the RS3 driving experience. It really lends this car its own unique character, especially within the hot hatch segment. But like the A45, someone has turned down the sound on the RS3 because of European sound emissions, and that's a real shame. Now, though it doesn't have the same headline horsepower figure as the A45, the engine in the RS3 is a real perler. It revs freely, and there are actually points on this tight little Marulan circuit where it trumps the A45 for power delivery, especially around that low to middling kind of RPM. It's a really tractable engine. Otherwise, the RS3 is a really competent little track car with a quick thinking dual clutch automatic transmission. It feels the slightly heavier of these two cars between corners, an issue that's compounded by some brake fade, but also slower and slightly more inert steering. But even so, grippy Pirelli tyres and that really smart thinking all-wheel drive system lended a lot of composure on circuit, and as a result, help instill driver confidence. In the end, the A45 takes the cake around Pheasant Wood, completing a lap nearly half a second ahead of the RS3. Interestingly though, you had to work harder for the AMG's lap time, reinforcing the fact the RS3 is the more user-friendly and forgiving of these two cars at 10/10. Away from the circuit, it's a mixed bag. The Mercedes wins points with a more generous 5-year warranty and more standard equipment befitting of its $10,000 dearer price tag. Equally, the RS3 is quieter and softer in its on-road demeanour than the more overt A45. Even with those drawbacks in mind, it's clear that the A45 S moves the humble hot hatch to new territory. It's a car with different dimensions. It's a car that will entertain even the most skilled driver with its performance and engagement. Now, the RS3 is a decent hot hatch in its own right as well, but in this comparison, it's a black and white victory to the new A45. Audi is reportedly developing a new RS3. It's now time for them to make the next move.